Jake, Maya, and Leo, three masterminds with nerves of steel, pulled off the most daring Vegas casino heist ever caught on AI surveillance. Yet they vanished without a trace, leaving the city and authorities stunned and desperate for answers. The headline exploded across international tabloids like wildfire. Beckham's secret rendezvous. Who is she? The name David Beckham had long been associated with elegance, family values, and global stardom. So, when the blurry photos surfaced him, stepping out of a luxury hotel in Zurich at midnight, the world took notice. The public speculated wildly. Was he alone? Who was the woman in the background? Within 48 hours, the media had its answer. Lena Voss. Lena wasn't a household name. She was a 29-year-old fashion PR consultant with a respectable but quiet career. Based in Berlin, Lena had worked with mid-tier fashion labels and occasionally consulted for sportswear crossover campaigns. Suddenly, her face was splashed across magazines, television screens, and viral Twitter threads. A single paparazzi photo, showing her walking 10 feet behind Beckham into the hotel lobby, was enough to brand her the other woman in a manufactured love triangle. At first, Lena denied everything. A short press release stated she had attended the hotel for an industry networking event and had no personal or professional connection to Beckham. Her tone was calm, diplomatic, but behind the scenes, her world was crumbling. Her landlord received harassing phone calls. She was let go from her agency under vague claims of reputational risk. Old acquaintances started selling her private messages to tabloids. Strangers followed her down the street, and then the anonymous messages started. Each message was cryptic, but unsettling. Sent from untraceable accounts, they appeared on her personal email and even her building's intercom system. They know more than you think. Play your part, and it all goes away. You knew what you signed up for? Lena began to fear that the story wasn't just about a tabloid frenzy. Something larger, darker, was unfolding. In her apartment, Lena pulled out the original contract from 6 months ago. It was from a company calling itself Edgeway International. The logo looked professional. The language seemed legal. The offer had come through a man named Alex Brenner, who claimed to be a representative for a sports branding consultancy. She'd been promised a €100,000 6-month retainer to advise on brand expansion for high-profile athletes. At the time, it seemed like her big break. What troubled Lena now was how vague the work had been. No meetings in proper offices, no traceable phone calls, only encrypted messaging apps. Her NDA had been aggressive in scope, forbidding her from discussing any visual, verbal, or situational involvement with unnamed clients. And still, she had gone along with it, believing it was standard in high-profile sports marketing. As the media storm intensified, Lena began to question everything. Was it ever about her career? Was she selected from the start for something more calculated? Every memory felt like a clue she had missed. The quiet hotel meetings. The way photographers always seemed to know her location. The staged feel of every interaction. Her name was being dragged through headlines as a scandalous mistress. But Lena had a sickening suspicion that she was being used for something she didn't understand. And the worst part was, it was already too late to walk away. Months passed in silence. Lena vanished from the media's radar, but whispers about her involvement never truly faded. The headlines evolved. Beckham's PR team moved swiftly, and the public found news stories to obsess over. But behind the scenes, Lena was spiraling. She had gone into hiding, first at her cousin's cottage in northern Bavaria, and then off the grid entirely. Her phone was replaced with a burner, her accounts wiped. Every knock at the door made her heart race. She no longer cared about her reputation. Her fear had grown deeper than public scrutiny. She was being watched, and she knew it. Then came the night when her story re-emerged, not through a traditional outlet, but in the form of a shaky, dimly lit video uploaded to a small conspiracy theory channel on YouTube. There, sitting in front of a blank curtain, was Lena. Her face looked different, exhausted, thinner, and full of caution. She wore no makeup, her voice quiet but deliberate. In the video, she didn't cry. She didn't beg for sympathy. She simply told her side. She began by refuting the affair entirely, stating in clear terms that she and David Beckham were never romantically involved. She described their limited interaction, recounting brief encounters at orchestrated events arranged by the same shadowy agency that had approached her with the job offer. The glamorous job, she claimed, was a front. She believed she was hired not for her skill, but because she fit a particular profile, unknown, and easily manipulated. The so-called branding consultancy turned out to be a private network orchestrating media narratives for corporate manipulation. What Lena revealed next sent ripples through the underground world of media watchdogs and independent investigators. According to her, the scandal wasn't about personal betrayal, but financial gain. She alleged that a covert operation had been launched to manufacture compromising situations around Beckham, not to blackmail him directly, but to destabilize his business relationships and manipulate share prices of sponsoring companies. Lena had unknowingly been placed into scenes that would be photographed and spun into scandal. With full knowledge of what would be captured and how it would be perceived, every encounter, she said, was carefully staged. Hotel lobbies with visible cameras. Dinners scheduled near known paparazzi routes. Even the outfit choices she was advised to wear were calculated to appear flirtatious and mysterious. When she questioned the repetitive nature of these setups, she was gaslit, told it was all about brand intimacy and subtle consumer cues. But Lena's suspicions grew, and when she pushed back too hard, the threats began. She didn't name names in the video. She said doing so could get her killed. But she made one thing clearer: what the world thought was a celebrity scandal was actually the tip of a much deeper iceberg. It wasn't just about her. She believed there were others, women and men, placed into positions not for fame, but for silent warfare between global brands. And though she looked broken in that video, Lena ended it with a chilling promise. You think you know the story? But the real story is what they won't let you see. The video caused little more than a flicker at first, dismissed by mainstream media as a desperate attempt for relevance. Yet, in the corners of the internet where journalists and digital sleuths combed for anomalies, Lena's story sparked quiet interest. Her statements were specific, oddly technical, and hinted at a level of orchestration far beyond any typical tabloid scandal. A few independent investigators began digging into her claims, and that's when things started to unravel. 3 weeks after the video went live, an encrypted data drop appeared on a secure file-sharing site used by investigative communities. The uploader's identity was masked, but the folder was labeled LVPROOF_01. It contained over a dozen audio recordings, legal documents, and surveillance images, many clearly linked to Lena's movements over the last year. Most disturbing were the recordings. In one audio clip, Lena could be heard in conversation with a man who spoke in an unplaceable accent. He was trying to convince her to attend a cocktail event at a boutique hotel in Milan, where Beckham was scheduled to appear. Don't worry, he said. You'll be seated near him, but just smile. It's all casual, like always. Lena replied nervously, asking if it would be another photographed event. The man's tone changed instantly. You signed the contract, Lena. Smile. That's all you have to do. Another recording captured a heated meeting in what sounded like a high-rise office. A group of men, voices urgent, aggressive, discussed a strategy for perceptual disruption. One referenced monetizing Beckham's vulnerability window, while another mentioned scheduled brand pivoting during scandal traction. The language was cold and calculated. This wasn't gossip, it was corporate maneuvering. Soon, more damning evidence came to light. Lena's travel history, cross-verified by airline manifests and hotel check-ins, revealed a strange pattern. Over a span of 8 weeks, she had visited Zurich, Milan, London, and Paris, each location matching key moments in Beckham's public timeline. Oddly, she had no visible work to show for those trips. No client meetings, no press releases, no campaigns launched. Then came the most explosive piece. A blurry video showing Lena in a dimly lit hotel room. Apparently unaware she was being recorded, she stood near the window, speaking to someone off camera. Her voice was tight. This wasn't part of the deal. We said no exposure. The unseen man responded, the narrative's in motion now. Just finish your part. Investigators analyzed the footage and confirmed that the metadata matched a luxury hotel suite in Zurich, the same one Beckham had exited in the original tabloid photo. Lena had not been a guest. The room was registered under a shell company later linked to a public relations contractor operating out of Luxembourg. Suddenly, her story wasn't sounding so far-fetched. Independent forums lit up with theories about media-engineered scandals, corporate sabotage, and influence warfare. Public trust in Lena's innocence began to shift. She had come forward for attention. She had been caught in something far more sinister than anyone imagined. And now, with the proof spreading across the web, the world was being forced to look again. As the data leaks circulated, the narrative surrounding Lena Voss began to shift. No longer was she the villain in a celebrity love triangle. Now, she was viewed as a whistleblower, trapped in a web of deception far beyond her control. Online forums exploded with theories, while a small collective of journalists began piecing together timelines. What emerged was not a story of romance, but of engineered scandal with multi-million-dollar consequences. Brands that had endorsed Beckham's, ranging from luxury watches to sportswear giants, were now being scrutinized, and their PR firms faced mounting questions. The public was no longer satisfied with silence. Then came the legal counterstrike. Lena filed a formal criminal complaint in Berlin. The targets of the complaint included her former PR agency, a Swiss-based media group, and a UK tabloid editor. The charges ranged from unlawful surveillance and coercion to participation in an organized defamation effort. The complaint outlined her recruitment, the fabricated branding, rolled the repeated setups, and her belief that the entire plot had been orchestrated to disrupt Beckham's image for financial gain, an image that held direct commercial value for multinational companies. While many expected the court to reject the complaint due to lack of jurisdiction or evidence, the opposite occurred. Authorities launched a formal inquiry, citing reasonable suspicion of organized media manipulation and psychological coercion. This wasn't just a publicity stunt anymore. It was a criminal investigation spanning multiple countries. A month later, British authorities confirmed a parallel investigation was being opened. They had received an anonymous cache of files that closely mirrored what Lena had released online, along with new material. One document was particularly damning. A presentation slide deck from a private PR consulting firm that listed anticipated scandal impact values next to Beckham's top 5 sponsors. It outlined potential stock fluctuations, recommended media angles, and even had Lena's name listed under narrative engagement assets. The sponsors panicked. One brand immediately paused its contract with Beckham, stating it would conduct an internal review. Others declined to comment. Beckham's legal team went on the offensive, calling the claims a fabricated campaign of disinformation. But their aggressive stance only added fuel to the fire. Public perception was shifting rapidly. People wanted answers. Meanwhile, Lena remained in hiding, under the protection of a whistleblower defense organization. The more details came out, the clearer it became that she had been chosen not for any wrongdoing, but because she was unknown, controllable, and easy to discredit. She had been the perfect vessel for a narrative she never agreed to write. By now, the scandal had moved beyond Beckham entirely. It was no longer about one man's reputation, but about the murky world where media, image, and money intersect. Lena had become a symbol of how easily public perception can be engineered and how the line between entertainment and manipulation was not just thin, but almost invisible. A year after Lena's last public appearance, the world had moved on, at least on the surface. The story that once dominated news cycles had been pushed aside by fresher scandals and new headlines. David Beckham returned to public life, his reputation largely intact, backed by his legal team and a tightly controlled media strategy. Most of the brands that had distanced themselves quietly resumed their partnerships. The investigations faded from front pages, court proceedings stalled, and no major arrests were made. The machine had absorbed the damage and kept moving. But beneath that polished surface, things had changed. Lena was no longer in Berlin. Following a confidential agreement with an international human rights group, she had been relocated under a witness protection program after receiving multiple threats, some subtle, others far more direct. Her disappearance wasn't just for her safety, it was also part of a deal. While her name was cleared in some circles, she had agreed to stop releasing additional materials. The pressure, legal threats, and fear had taken a toll. She wanted peace, even if it meant giving up the fight for full justice. But she didn't stay silent forever. 10 months after the scandal began, an investigative journalist named Edon Clare received an unmarked envelope containing a handwritten letter and a single flash drive. The letter was signed with a single name, Lena. The contents of the flash drive weren't explosive in the legal sense, no shocking new tapes or contracts, but what it contained was far more haunting, a detailed day-by-day account of Lena's experience. It's written like a journal, outlining every manipulation, every fake meeting, every moment she was made to play a part in someone else's narrative. In one entry, she described a moment of clarity in a hotel elevator, watching herself in the mirror and not recognizing the person staring back. In another, she wrote about waking up to find her phone wiped remotely, hours after receiving an encrypted file she never even opened. The final entry simply read, "They didn't need me to lie. They needed me to be seen so the world could lie for them." Iden published excerpts from the journal in a long-form piece titled "The Woman Who Wasn't Here There." It didn't trend, didn't go viral, but it reached the right readers, media watchdogs, legal experts, and whistleblower advocates. Slowly, the story found new life, not in breaking news, but in academic conferences, and media ethics panels, and university lectures. Lena's name faded, but her impact lingered. She had exposed a mechanism, an invisible system designed to manufacture belief and manipulate perception. She showed how easy it was to fabricate a scandal, to ruin someone's life, and to walk away without consequence. The truth didn't roar in this story. It whispered. And though the world might forget Lena Voss, the few who listened to her story would never look at headlines the same way again.